So let's begin at the beginning. You've got Filippo Bion, who is the expert in S technology. You've got Corrado Malanga, who is also an expert in this field, and Armando May. Obviously, what they revealed is that within the second pyramid, that's the pyramid of Khafre, which is conventionally dated to about 2,500 BC, 4,526 years ago. And I believe we can prove that dating to be wrong. They detected 5 chambers that are very similar to the so-called relieving chambers that are directly above the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid. You can see them here in this, this reconstruction or interpretation that they've done. They've obviously done them looking exactly like the relieving chambers. And this is what they found inside it. Now, they alluded to these in a paper from 2022, but Biondi has admitted since. He said that when they did that paper in 2022, they were only looking inside the pyramids, the Great Pyramid and the Second Pyramid. They weren't looking for things underground. So this is what they found. As I said, these relieving chambers were mentioned in the paper, I think, or certainly they mentioned they'd found something inside the Second Pyramid, but that was about it. And what they revealed at the conference was that beneath the Second Pyramid were these 8 vertical pipes or tubes or wells that penetrated down for at least 648 meters, arguably even further, which you can see here. And that each one had these spirals around them that they interpret in terms of some kind of staircase. And that these 8 pipes eventually go into these 2 cubic, let's assume hollow structures that are approximately 80 meters in size. And that these are part of a much bigger complex underneath the plateau at Giza that they've referred to as a lost city and that they have called the Halls of Amenti. This is important to me because I did my research of the Emerald Tablets back in 2005. I was convinced then that the Hall of Amenti were under the pyramids. This is a term, Amenti means hidden. We'll come back to this, and it relates to some kind of underworld structure that's mentioned in ancient Egyptian mythology. And yes, it is linked with Giza, as we'll see. Now, to back up all of these claims, they released these so-called tomographic images that were created through the SAR technology. And this one here supposedly shows the 8 tubes, wells, pipes, whatever you want to call them, going deep down into the bedrock. And when I first saw these, I thought to myself, how can you possibly get this type of information from SAR technology? They're interpreting this material in a way that nobody else has done before. So it was very difficult to see this. Now, obviously, what you see is that the darker areas that are blue are the density. In other words, where nothing is. And quite clearly, the brighter colors signify where exactly these structures are. And according to them, obviously, they're penetrating downwards hundreds and hundreds of meters. Now, SAR technology has been around for many, many decades. And, it can give you incredible mapping of the surface of the earth, a bit like LAR technology, but definitely penetrating a little bit underground. I mean, for instance, in 2007, the TerraSAR X satellite actually took an incredible map of the Giza Plateau at night. And that very clearly shows structures underneath the goal. So it can see underground, but not very far at all. But basically what Filippo Bion, who's an absolute specialist and has published many articles on this, and in fact, there is an article on the Great Pyramid that was actually published in Remote Sensing, which is a very, very respected journal. This type of technology is that the returning information, the returning pulses, will then convert it into 2 types of data. One is electromagnetic in nature, basically within the microwave range. But the other information that they're getting from it, and this is depending on hollows and structures and angles, is sound. And that this sound can then be added together with the electromagnetic data, like data of God Almighty's grand unified theorem, GIJ, J = 0, I will be making a video of the God Almighty Grand Unified Theorem in the future. This is important to understand, and you aren't told anything about it. But yeah, the sound can then, be put through a computer program, which is one that they have created, and will then give you the topographic images that we see. So none of this is done from the ground. And I mean, the Egyptian authorities are clearly, hopping mad with all of this, because they're saying that the Khafre SAR team hadn't any permission to do this. Well, shit, they didn't need it, because this is all done from satellite data. So, they didn't need to get permission from the Supreme Council of Antiquities or the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Culture or whatever. They just did it, basically. And I like to thank them for doing so, for the simple fact, when you are studying without the facts and the mainstream is hiding information like this from you. But shit, then your research leads you to find something like this without verification, or very little or no sources, just bits and pieces. But your spirit, your imagination, conscience guides you when you are researching and you have a thought of something this huge, and at the time seems to be impossible. Could that be our ancestors guiding us to evidence like this?